simply has just walked into the conversation with the best of all time. There's only so many people on earth that can walk around and say to any Grand Slam venue and be like, oh, I won here too.
Carlos Alcaraz has finally admitted the truth, hiding behind that famous smile, and suddenly, those injuries, withdrawals, and emotional dips look very different. At only 23, the 7-time Grand Slam champion has revealed that he refuses to become a slave to tennis. Bold words from a player carrying the sport on his back, while the ATP calendar treats rest days like double faults. Do you respect his stance, or does a champion chasing history have to sacrifice everything? Alcaraz has already confessed that the pressure of catching Jannik Sinner once killed his game. Now, after wrist trouble forced him away from major events, the bigger picture is becoming impossible to ignore. This isn't simply about one injury or a missing tournament. It's about a young superstar fighting to protect his body, his freedom, and perhaps his love for the sport. Hit subscribe right now, because the truth Carlos revealed could change how you see his entire career. From the outside, that sounds perfect. Fame, money, trophies, packed stadiums, and a forehand capable of frightening people in the expensive seats. Yet success at that speed creates a strange trap. Every victory stops being a celebration and becomes the new minimum. Win one major and people ask for 3. Reach number 1 and they demand that you stay there. Beat Novak Djokovic, and suddenly everyone expects you to become Novak Djokovic. That is where the famous smile becomes important. Alcaraz has built his identity around joy. He attacks the net, tries outrageous drop shots, laughs with his team, and plays points that look as if somebody handed a video game controller to a child with unlimited confidence. Fans love that freedom. However, the same sport selling his joy keeps adding pressure until joy begins to feel like another job requirement. Imagine being 23 and hearing that every defeat is evidence of a crisis. One poor service game becomes a technical collapse. A tired quarterfinal becomes a character problem. One withdrawal becomes a national investigation conducted by people who think a wrist can be repaired by positive thinking and an ice pack. Alcaraz has felt that noise before. During Sinner's rise to the top, Carlos admitted that chasing the number 1 ranking had consumed him. His use of the word killed was not a medical claim. It described what the pressure did to his tennis. Instead of stepping onto court to create, compete, and enjoy the fight, he started measuring every result against another man's ranking points. That difference matters. Rankings reward consistency across months, but the human mind doesn't experience them as a tidy spreadsheet. Every Sinner win can feel like another door closing. Each Alcaraz loss can seem twice as costly. First, he loses the match. Then, he loses ground in a race the public discusses every single week. On one hand, rivalry creates greatness. Federer needed Nadal. Nadal needed Djokovic. Djokovic appeared to need everybody in the stadium cheering for the other player. Competition forces champions to improve shots, fitness, tactics, and nerve. Sinner has clearly pushed Alcaraz, while Carlos has pushed the Italian right back. On the other hand, obsession can steal the very qualities that make a player dangerous. Alcaraz is at his best when he reacts with instinct. He changes pace, charges forward, and turns defense into attack before an opponent understands what happened. Place a rankings calculator inside that mind, though, and the free swing becomes a fearful one. Suddenly, every bold choice carries the weight of the entire season. That is why his admission feels bigger than a normal interview answer. Carlos is drawing a line. Tennis can be his profession, passion, and stage, but it cannot own every hour of his life. Some fans will call that mature. Others will say the greatest champions never draw such lines. They train, recover, study, travel, and repeat until history has no choice but to remember them. Yet here is the harsh truth. History doesn't have to live inside the damaged body afterward. The player does. The wrist problem turned this debate from philosophy into something painfully real. A wrist controls the serve, forehand, touch, spin, and confidence behind nearly every aggressive decision. When that joint hurts, a tennis player cannot simply avoid using it. This is not football, where a sore hand might be wrapped and forgotten. In tennis, the hand is connected to every weapon. Alcaraz's injury disrupted his schedule and pulled him away from tournaments where his presence would normally dominate the draw. Missing Madrid was especially brutal because it denied him the chance to perform before his home crowd. Later absences from major North American events added another layer of concern as the United States swing moved toward its biggest stage. Naturally, the tennis internet behaved with its usual medical qualifications from the University of Comment section. Some people demanded immediate rest. Others accused him of poor scheduling. A few acted as if skipping a Masters event proved he no longer cared. Apparently, protecting a damaged wrist is acceptable only after it falls off during a tiebreak. But think about the decision facing Carlos and his team. Return too early and a manageable problem can become a season-changing injury. Wait too long and he loses match rhythm, ranking opportunities, sponsor exposure, and preparation. There is no magical option where the wrist heals, the points remain untouched, and every fan stays calm. Under the old romantic view of tennis, champions played through pain and called it courage. We now know that courage without judgment can shorten careers. Bodies keep records even when broadcasters move to the next tournament. Rafael Nadal gave fans unforgettable examples of playing through suffering, but his career also showed how brutally the sport collects payment later. Carlos has watched that lesson from close range. Nadal was his hero, countryman, and the impossible standard placed above every Spanish prospect. Comparing the two may sell headlines, yet their bodies, games, and careers are not identical. Alcaraz cannot copy Nadal's path like a homework answer. He has to decide what kind of champion he can remain without destroying the person underneath. Suddenly, "I don't want to be a slave to tennis" stops sounding casual. It becomes a warning against the culture surrounding him. The tour wants appearances. Events want star power, sponsors want visibility, broadcasters want another Alcaraz-Sinner final, supporters want 5-set classics, preferably every Sunday and with no rain delay. Everybody wants a piece of the show, while only Carlos feels the pain when his wrist refuses to cooperate. Does that mean he lacks hunger? Absolutely not. A player does not win 7 majors by treating practice like a weekend hobby. His record already proves discipline, courage, and an appetite for the biggest moments. The lazy argument says balance equals weakness. Reality says balance may be the only reason we still see his best tennis at 30. If you believe players should be allowed to protect their bodies without being called soft, hit like right now. This debate is only getting hotter. Then we reach Jannik Sinner, the other half of this story, and the man tennis keeps placing across the net from Carlos. Their rivalry is brilliant because the contrast is so clean. Sinner often looks calm, controlled, and almost mechanical. Alcaraz brings noise, improvisation, and sudden explosions. One builds pressure like a machine, the other throws lightning at the scoreboard. Marketing departments would love to add hatred. Rivalries are easier to sell when two stars glare through press conferences and refuse to share oxygen. Carlos, however, has rejected that cheap script. He has explained that he and Sinner can chase the same prizes without hating each other. They can try to hurt each other's chances on court, then behave like normal human beings afterward. What a scandal, 2 adults competing without staging a soap opera. Still, Alcaraz also acknowledged that close friendship at this level is complicated. That is believable. Picture congratulating the person who just removed your name from a trophy. Imagine smiling for photographs while knowing his victory cost you ranking points, money, confidence, and perhaps a piece of history. Respect can survive that tension. Easy friendship is another matter. Sinner's response to Alcaraz's injury showed the respect between them. When Carlos missed Madrid, Jannik described the absence as difficult for the event and did not use the moment to twist the knife. At an awards ceremony, he reportedly avoided pushing Carlos for private medical details. That small choice matters because elite sport often turns another player's weakness into useful information. Neither man needs fake hostility. Their matches already provide enough drama. They have traded major victories, dragged each other into brutal physical contests, and forced tactical changes across the men's game. Sinner takes time away with clean, early strikes. Alcaraz disrupts rhythm with variety, speed, and touch. Each meeting feels like a test of which version of modern tennis will control the future. Yet the rivalry also fuels the pressure Carlos says damaged him. When Sinner wins, Alcaraz is asked about Sinner. When Carlos withdraws, analysts calculate what Sinner can gain. Even during separate tournaments, the two are treated like they share one scoreboard. Tennis has turned them into a package deal before either has reached the middle of his career. That constant comparison can become toxic. A champion may start making choices based on what his rival is doing instead of what his own body needs. Enter one extra event because Sinner is playing. Rush a return because ranking points are disappearing. Extend a practice block because the last head-to-head exposed a weakness. None of those decisions looks reckless alone. Together, they can create the exact prison Carlos is resisting. You also have to look at the calendar. Professional tennis has no true league season, followed by a long, protected break. The sport moves from Australia to the Middle East, the United States, Europe, grass, North America again, Asia, and then the year-end finals. Different balls, surfaces, climates, hotels, and time zones keep arriving. The suitcase gets more recovery time than the player. Masters events offer huge points and are difficult for top names to ignore. Grand Slams define legacies. Team events carry national pride. Exhibitions offer enormous money. Add media duties, sponsor commitments, training camps, and travel, and the word choice becomes slippery. Technically, a player can skip. Practically, every absence has a price. Tour officials often stress that athletes control their schedules. That statement is true in the same way a student controls whether to take an exam. Yes, staying home is possible. The ranking consequences simply arrive afterward with a smile and a calculator. Fans also deserve a fair argument here. People buy tickets months in advance to watch stars such as Alcaraz. Tournaments build advertising around those names. When a late withdrawal happens, families lose the experience they paid for. Disappointment is real, and dismissing it would be arrogant. However, forcing an injured attraction onto court helps nobody. Spectators do not want a frightened forehand, a shortened match, or a retirement after 4 games. They want the real Carlos. Producing that version requires recovery, and recovery cannot always be squeezed between a sponsor dinner and an airport departure. This is no longer just a discussion about one young man's attitude. It is now a test of what tennis believes players are for. Are they independent athletes with bodies and lives, or traveling content machines expected to perform whenever a tournament places their face on a poster? The answer will shape more than Alcaraz's career. Players ranked outside the elite face an even harsher calculation. Carlos can afford specialists, private travel, and skipped prize money. Someone ranked 71st may carry coaching bills, flights, hotels, and family costs without his financial cushion. Rest sounds sensible until the next invoice lands. That irony should bother everyone. The richest stars have the power to speak about balance, while lower-ranked players may understand the need even more and possess fewer ways to achieve it. If the calendar exhausts Alcaraz, imagine what it does to the athlete flying economy after losing in qualifying. Make sure you're subscribed because the next withdrawal, schedule fight, or major update will reveal whether tennis listened or simply waited for Carlos to stop talking. Now comes the question critics will ask: can Alcaraz protect his happiness and still become one of the greatest players ever? The old-school answer is harsh. Greatness demands obsession. Federer shaped his life around precision. Nadal treated every point like a personal emergency. Djokovic transformed food, sleep, recovery, movement, and belief into parts of one giant performance system. Their records did not appear through moderation and cheerful weekends off. Carlos knows those numbers. He also knows every season spent injured is a season that produces no trophies. Chasing a legend's schedule without possessing his exact body is not ambition, it is imitation, and imitation can be expensive. Perhaps Alcaraz is not rejecting sacrifice at all. Maybe he is choosing which sacrifices actually help. Missing a tournament to heal can protect 3 future majors. Spending time with family may restore the energy required for another brutal final. Stepping away from rankings talk could free the instinct that made him number 1 in the first place. His style depends on emotional oxygen. When Carlos enjoys the fight, the whole court opens. Drop shots appear from nowhere. Passing shots bend around opponents. Defensive sprints become attacks. Once anxiety tightens that freedom, he can look impatient and force low-percentage choices. Protecting joy is not separate from performance. For him, it may be a tactical weapon. Of course, balance cannot become an excuse. If poor preparation leads to repeated injuries, questions are fair. Should scheduling decisions create avoidable fatigue, criticism belongs in the conversation. When a player publicly targets history, fans can examine whether his choices match that ambition. Support does not require blind applause. Still, evidence matters more than lazy labels. Alcaraz has already completed the career Grand Slam at an age when many future champions were still learning how to win one. He has beaten legends on the biggest courts and survived matches that appeared lost. Calling him uncommitted because he values life outside tennis is not analysis. It is nostalgia wearing a serious face. There is also a business reason for the sport to listen. Alcaraz is not merely another top seed. He is one of the central attractions of the post-Big Three era. His smile, speed, creativity, and rivalry with Sinner bring casual viewers into tournaments. Burning him out would be like buying a racehorse and using it to deliver groceries. Protecting stars cannot mean building a special rulebook only for famous names. Any reform must help the wider field through smarter scheduling, honest recovery windows, and fewer incentives that punish sensible medical decisions. Otherwise, tennis creates two tours, one where wealthy champions can rest and another where everyone else must gamble with injury. The strongest part of Carlos's message is its honesty. He is not pretending trophies mean nothing. Clearly, he wants them. Nor is he announcing retirement to live on a beach and practice drop shots against tourists. He is saying success must fit inside a life rather than replacing it. That sounds obvious until a superstar actually says it. Then the sporting world becomes nervous because the entire system depends on athletes believing more is always better. More matches, more weeks, more content, more history. Satisfaction is dangerous to a machine powered by endless appetite. So where does Alcaraz go from here? First, his body must set the timetable, especially with a wrist involved. Practice videos and optimistic comments are encouraging, but competitive tennis delivers forces that controlled hitting cannot copy. A full return requires confidence to serve hard, accelerate the forehand, defend at speed, and react without protecting the joint. Next, his team must manage the emotional race with Sinner. Ranking points will matter, but they cannot become the judge of every week. Sometimes the smartest move is allowing a rival to gain ground while building toward the tournament that defines the season. Losing a small battle can preserve the weapons needed for the war. Finally, Carlos must accept that people will misunderstand him. If he wins, balance will be praised as genius. Should he lose, the same holidays, smiles, and family time will be placed on trial. Sports commentary loves results because results remove the need for patience. In my view, his stance is not weakness. It is a young champion recognizing danger before the damage becomes permanent. That does not guarantee he will make every correct decision, nobody does, yet choosing limits at 23 may require more courage than discovering them after surgery at 29. The hope is that this honesty gives Carlos room to return with hunger instead of fear. A healthy Alcaraz chasing Sinner is good for everyone. Their contrast can carry men's tennis for years, provided the sport does not squeeze 10 years of rivalry into 5 exhausted seasons. The ambiguity remains. Nobody knows whether balance will extend his greatness or quietly reduce it. Perhaps he will win deep into his 30s. Maybe his explosive style will always demand careful breaks. Either outcome will be used by somebody to prove a point they already believed. But one truth is clear now. The smile does not mean the pressure is light. The trophies do not make the body indestructible. Most importantly, loving tennis does not require surrendering an entire life to it. Carlos Alcaraz has finally revealed where he draws the line, and now tennis must decide whether to respect it or push until that famous smile disappears. Do you believe balance will protect his legacy, or must he sacrifice everything to catch the greatest names in history? Drop your final verdict in the comments, hit like if players are human before they are stars, and subscribe so you don't miss our next update. The battle between Alcaraz, Sinner, the calendar, and history is only beginning, and the next chapter could decide the future of men's tennis.